tonight, a case that refuses to go cold. Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, mother of NBC's Savannah Guthrie, has been missing for 27 days. And tonight, 3 major developments are breaking simultaneously. First, newly surfaced footage from a neighbor's surveillance camera captures vehicles cutting through a quiet back road during the very hours Nancy vanished. One of those cars rocketed past the camera just 8 minutes after Nancy's pacemaker lost its Bluetooth signal to her Apple Watch. Our 8 minutes. That is not a coincidence. Second, online investigators are now zeroing in on what appears to be a small dark star, black or possibly navy blue, stitched onto the jacket of the suspect caught on porch camera. Real marking or a trick of the light? If it's real, it could be the thread investigators need to pull. And third, could artificial intelligence have been used to compose 2 of the ransom notes? Because if it was, there is a way to trace it. Much there is always a way to trace it. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us. Dave Mack, bring us up to speed. What is Savannah doing publicly to keep this search alive? Savannah went on Instagram today and did something very deliberate, Nancy. She pulled a segment from her own broadcast, a piece specifically about her mother's disappearance, and she posted it with a direct message to anyone watching. She wrote, "Please be the person who brings her home." And then she said something that, frankly, hasn't been stated this plainly before. She told her followers that tips are completely anonymous if you want them to be, and that the reward money can be handed over in cash. No bank records, no names attached, just information, and you walk away with the money. She also released a condensed version of the family's earlier public appeal, keeping the pressure on, keeping Nancy's face in front of as many eyes as possible. Now, let's get into this new video. Our colleagues at Fox News have obtained Ring camera footage from a home sitting roughly 2.5 miles from Nancy Guthrie's residence. This is not a busy road. It is a back route out of that neighborhood, the kind of road you use if you know the area or if you're trying to avoid the main streets. Between midnight and 6 a.m. on February 1st, the night Nancy disappeared, 12 vehicles passed in front of that camera. 12. On a road that on any ordinary night might see almost none. And one of those vehicles, caught at 2:36 in the morning, wasn't just passing through. It was moving at a speed that made investigators stop and take notice. Here's the critical detail. Nancy's pacemaker had dropped its Bluetooth connection to her Apple Watch just 8 minutes before that car went barreling past that camera. And when you watch the footage, it is heading away from the neighborhood, then away from the search radius law enforcement established, which was set at a 2-mile perimeter. This car was already 2.5 miles out. Dave Mack, walk us through exactly what we're seeing on this footage. What you're watching is a vehicle moving at a speed that simply doesn't match innocent, late-night travel on a back road. The timing lines up, the direction lines up, and the location, just outside the official search boundary, that matters too. Law enforcement drew that radius. But whoever took Nancy may have known exactly how to stay one step outside of it. Joining us now is Brian Fitzgibbons, Director of Operations at USPA Nationwide Security. He leads an elite team of investigators who locate missing persons across the globe. A former Marine and Iraqi war veteran whose particular specialty is extracting individuals from dangerous situations in Mexico. Brian, you have seen cases cracked by less than this. What does this footage tell you? Nancy, what this tells me is that the net is widening, and that is exactly what needs to happen. 2.5 miles from the house, that is the investigation expanding beyond the immediate scene. And I want the public to understand that this one clip is just one piece of a massive undertaking. The FBI and Pima County are currently working through more than 10,000 hours of surveillance video. 10,000 hours. What we're seeing tonight is a single thread. But this particular thread, a vehicle in the right location at the right time, moving in the right direction, that is the kind of thread that unravels an entire case. Todd Shipley is with us now, digital cybercrime expert, former detective sergeant with Reno PD, 25 years in law enforcement, and the author of both Surviving a Cyber Attack and Investigating Internet Crimes. Find him at darkel.info. Todd, the footage is grainy. To the average person watching at home, it looks like almost nothing. How do federal forensic specialists take something like this and turn it into a real lead? The process starts with isolating individual frames, pulling still images out of the moving footage and examining each one for anything usable. Even a blurry shot of a moving car carries information. The silhouette of the roofline, the placement of the taillights, the curvature of the rear window, the relative height of the vehicle against surrounding objects. Yet none of that disappears just because the image isn't crisp. From there, investigators can cross-reference those characteristics against vehicle databases, year, make, model, and start building a list of registered owners in the area. Yes, that list could be long, but every distinctive detail you can extract chips away at that number. A dent, a missing trim piece, a specific wheel style, any one of those can cut 1,000 names down to 50, and 50 is workable. Back to Brian Fitzgibbons. Now, Brian, online investigators have already gone to work on this footage, and many are landing on the same conclusion, that this vehicle matches the profile of a Kia Soul. We have a comparison image on screen right now, and this raises something important. Car manufacturers make design changes to their models constantly, sometimes dramatically, sometimes in ways that only someone with a trained eye would catch. A revised headlight angle, a change in the tail light cluster, even a different slope to the windshield. But here's what I want the audience to understand. Major law enforcement agencies, the ones handling auto theft, vehicle recovery, stolen car rings, those investigators spend years doing nothing but staring at cars on surveillance monitors. They can look at a blurred image of a vehicle 100 yards away and tell you the year. How? Absolutely, Nancy. It comes from an almost obsessive level of pattern recognition, developed over thousands of hours in the field. Even with lower resolution footage, the key markers are still readable if you know what to look for. The window shape, the light positions, the vehicle's overall proportions. You can establish a size estimate, a height-to-width ratio, and compare that against known models. I think the community's identification is going to hold up. The FBI will take it further, but the baseline read here is probably accurate. Hi, it's Nancy Grace. Here's something that keeps me up at night. Not a crime story, but a financial one. Families who are doing everything right, holding down jobs, keeping up with the house, but the cost of groceries, the cost of insurance, the cost of just living is forcing them onto high-interest credit cards just to get through the month. If that is you, and you own your home, and you are sitting on balances with interest rates in the 20s, there is a way out. American Financing works with homeowners to consolidate that debt at rates in the low 5s. Their salary-based mortgage consultants, not commission-driven, salary-based, are saving their customers an average of $800 a month. And if you start the process today, you may be able to skip your next 2 mortgage payments entirely. No upfront fees, just relief. American Financing, America's home for home loans. Call 866-880-0344. That's 866-880-0344, or visit americanfinancing.net/Nancy. Good luck. Let's go back to that footage. And I want to push on something, Todd, because people at home might be thinking, even if they can read the car, won't the plates be fake? In an operation like this, I'd be stunned if whoever did this left their real registration on that vehicle. That's a fair point, and it is a real challenge. But here's what investigators know from experience. Nobody gets everything right. The plate might be stolen or switched, but what else is on that car? Is there a parking permit from a workplace or a university? A faded bumper sticker? A crack in the rear windshield that's been there for 2 years? A custom wheel on one corner because that's all the shop had? It could be anything. And the DMV records for make and model, even narrowing it to a specific year range in a specific county. That alone generates a manageable list. You work the list. You make the contacts, you find the inconsistency, and if you are the person driving that car, hear me clearly. You have not gotten away with anything, because this is exactly how it ends for people who think they were invisible. Brian Fitzgibbons, let's talk about that. Yep, because you and I have tracked this pattern across case after case. A vehicle, not DNA, not a confession, not a witness. A vehicle is what starts the dominoes falling. Brian Kohberger, the Idaho murders. Before his name ever came up, before any DNA was processed, a gas station clerk did something remarkable. She sat down voluntarily and combed through hours of her own store's surveillance footage because she lived in that community and she wanted to help. When she found a white Hyundai Elantra pushing through the intersection near King Road around 4 a.m, moving faster than it should have been, she reported it. That report traveled up the chain, reached campus police at Washington State University in Pullman, and a records check showed one white Elantra registered to a student. That student was Brian Kohberger. Officers went to confirm the vehicle. That was the beginning of the end for him. Molly Tibbetts, a young woman going for an evening run, murdered. The suspect's own vehicle, caught on a residential door camera as he circled her street repeatedly, was identified by a distinctive physical characteristic on the car. He had driven past her again and again, trying to make contact. The moment she told him she was calling the police, he made his choice. The door cam had already made his car. And the Turpin case. Brian, you and I have been through that evidence frame by frame. The suspect, who has been arrested but not yet convicted, had swapped out his license plates. Smart move. Or so he thought. But the hospital parking sticker was still adhered to his rear windshield. When investigators finally located the car, that sticker had been scratched off. Scratched off. Nothing announces guilt louder than destroying evidence after the fact. The outline was still there. The adhesive residue told the story. A tag, a sticker, a scratch, a dent, a parking permit. Any one of those can close a case. Brian, this vehicle in the Guthrie footage could be that detail. Without question, Nancy. Case after case, going back decades, the vehicle is what breaks things open. And now, with over $1 million in reward money on the table, the volume of tips and footage coming in is going to multiply dramatically. Someone out there knows what car that is. Someone has seen it. Someone worked on it, or parked next to it, or sold it. This is the lead. I'm Dave Mack. I want to shift to something that exploded online today. Investigators on social media have been analyzing the porch footage, the footage of the suspect walking Nancy Guthrie out of her own home, and a number of them are pointing to what appears to be a star symbol on the suspect's jacket near the shoulder close to the backpack strap. Small, dark, black, or blue in color. Dave, what are we working with here? Nancy, here's where it stands. There are certain frames where you can see what does appear to be a star-shaped mark on that jacket. There are other frames where it doesn't show up. So the honest answer is, we don't know yet whether it's a genuine emblem or a shadow cast by the way the backpack strap sits. What I will say is this: if it is real, it is significant. We already have identified the brand of the backpack this suspect was wearing. If that star belongs to the jacket, not the bag, then we are looking at either a branded jacket that can be traced through retail records, or, and this would be even more useful, a custom embroidered piece. A company uniform, a school or team jacket, a club or organization that had a batch run made. Those kinds of items are produced in limited quantities. 50, 120. That is a pool of identifiable people. Fitzgibbons, that's what I'm focused on too. Because if this is a custom embroidered item, on the embroidery shop has a record of the order. The organization has a roster. That list of possible owners is small, and the FBI knows how to work a small list. This post, shared by user at TRIL on X, has gone viral precisely because of that potential. The porch footage showing the moment Nancy was taken was released by the FBI. And now this symbol, if authenticated, adds one more layer of identification to a suspect the public is actively hunting. Is it real or a shadow? Well, that question is now sitting on the desk of FBI forensic analysts tonight. And let me put this in historical context. In the Wayne Williams case, the Atlanta child murders, my old district attorney's office pioneered the use of fiber analysis in a criminal prosecution. Williams had transported victims in his vehicle, and the carpet fibers from both his car and his parents' home were found on multiple victims' bodies before they were recovered from the Chattahoochee River. Nobody thought a carpet fiber was going to hang a serial killer. The FBI's materials database now contains decades of textile, fiber, fabric, and clothing data from thousands of cases. If that star is a real emblem and they can isolate it clearly, they will find it.